Welcome back. It is Thursday, it's 4 o'clock, and welcome back and thank you for joining us for episode 3 of the MCC live stream series featuring the Everyone Can Code program from Apple. Let's get the introductions done and dusted. With me, as always, is Mr. David Kirkland. David is an Apple professional learning specialist and all-round iPad, Mac guru, music guru, photography guru, video guru.
We just play with things.
All those boxes ticked. I am Richard Child. I am the education manager here at MCC Digital. We are an Apple authorized education specialist, and we have been looking over the last few streams at the Everyone Can Code program from Apple, which is a totally free, almost a scheme of work to help you with the teaching of computing and coding on iPads and Macs. And so far we've looked at teacher guides and teacher resources that are part of this this package. Last time we looked at, we got our hands on the Everyone Can Code, the Swift Playgrounds app, and we moved our little character around the screen. Today, we're going to explore coding through the medium of dance. I'm so excited. David's going to break some moves for us. So let's take it away, virtually, of course.
It might not be me.
Might not be. So take it away. I can't wait. Let's go see what we've got today.
Let's have a look. So yeah, so we jumped into the resources last week, and we had a good look around the first steps of kind of getting our understanding around some of the syntax of Swift code and the language and the way we use some of the commands. And we were moving Byte around a map there to go and solve the problems and the different challenges. So I'm back in the Everyone Can Code puzzles book here at the moment, and we had a look at the lessons from the first section in there, and this ends with a really nice activity around a MeBot. And a MeBot is a physical robot, and there's lots of nice adventures here that we can kind of develop and practice with this robot, but we can do it on the iPad if you don't have the hardware as well. So we've got the activity here. We're going to have a look at some of those skills that we've already experienced, but taking it a little bit further with the hardware. So let me just do something we've not done in this series before. I'm going to turn my screen share off for a moment. So I'm going to show you, this is a MeBot. This is the physical robot. It's a little kit that we get and we build it together. There's lots of bricks and connectors that we put together in here, and we follow the instructions, which is a lovely exercise for the children anyway. That whole kind of DT side of it, following the instructions, the 3D models and building this robot. Of course, we've got the instructions to build this robot, but we can build other things with it, and we can put our own imagination to use and create all sorts of different things there in the background. So what we have here have all the parts, and we've got, I don't know if you can see there on the screen, but we've got 6 motors in this robot here that control the arms and the legs, and we move those around. So we have one here, which we can move up and down to move the arms there. You can probably hear the servo motor as I move it. We've got the same on the legs. And there's actually one inside there that lets us twist the legs as well. So altogether, we've got quite a lot of control over this little dancing chap to make him do his break dancing. This is actually a MeBot original, the first one. There is MeBot 2 out now, which is the one in the books, but they're pretty much the same. The second one has LED eyes, and we can do nice little things with lighting things up and coding that as well. So let's bring my screen back. And there we are, we're back on the iPad. So we're in the book there, we've got our challenges, we've got our little tasks to work through. So let's jump straight into Swift Playgrounds. And just looking at the Swift Playground app, we have our playgrounds on the home screen here. We have been starting with Learn to Code 1, but we're now jumping into MeBot 2 Dancers. If you don't have it already, you can press that See All button at the bottom of the screen, and you can just download it from there. It's quite a simple task to download that. So just like Learn to Code 1, we've got our exercises here with the MeBot Dance. And jumping in here, we get a little introduction. Hello, I'm MeBot 2. And it gives us these little kind of intros to just dance in here. So it's showing us the code, and straight away, the code's probably looking a bit more complicated than the code that we've already done so far in the Learn to Code 1 at this stage. And that's fine, because what we're starting to do now, we've got that little bit of familiarity with the syntax and the structure to this. But this is now taking some of the coding concepts a little bit further, and we're getting more complicated coding. But what this app is really good about, this little playground is really good at, is it just kind of contains it into small little fragments, so we can just put some of those elements in there quite simply, but in that bigger picture of some of this more complex code. So it does say here we need to be working along Learn to Code 1 as a prerequisite for this. So we do need to jump into that before we have a look at the MeBot dance. Now, I've got the physical hardware here. If you haven't got the physical hardware, that's fine. We can do it all in this software virtual environment. So it is asking to connect to my robot by Bluetooth. But that would leave him dancing around on the table, which is great. It's so nice for the children to see their code and see it actually have something kind of react in the real world. But we have this little virtual version of him here. There's our MeBot sat on the stage. And if we spin him around, we can see his audience full of other different kind of MeBots and different types of things there for him to perform to. So we can see him do these moves kind of in real time as we've coded it here. So just like any other playground, we've got our instructions on our top left. We're coded on the bottom right, bottom left, and we can see our dancing robot do the resulting moves, in this case, on the right-hand side. So this one really is just already done for us. It's just telling us, look, we've got our code. We want to connect him up if we've got the physical one. And our code is already in there. So there's a built-in code just to let us see what it's doing, which is just a dance command. And if I just press run the code, we can see our animation kind of doing our breakdances. And that's exactly what the real life robot would do if he was sat there on a table. And you can kind of see how the 6 different servos are all working there. So that's nice and easy. We've kind of seen that introduction. I'm going to skip through these a little bit and move on to the basic moves one first. So here we have a goal to use Swift commands to tell MeBot to perform dance moves. Use at least 8 dance moves, 4 of which should be different. So let's have a look. So just like before, we can tap to enter our code, and we've got our keyboard, our mini keyboard popping up here with these little quick shortcuts to lots of the commands. And you can see, you'll notice straight away, instead of just moving a character around a map, we've suddenly got a lot more on here already. So maybe I want him to move forward, move backward, move to the left, move to the right. It's feeling a bit like the time warp already. Maybe we want to do a little cheer in there, and then we'll move backwards and move forward again. And we can keep going, and the children can experiment with this, and they can move them around, they can delete them, they can put different ones on. But as we move through this, we can step through our code just like we did last time, or we can run it just to see how our MeBot is performing those different moves. And children like this because they see how it's kind of actually quite a fun way of exploring the different kind of commands here. And there we go, he's dancing away. So I'm going to stop him for now, and let's move on to the next lesson. So let's go on to the dance routine. So now we know how the basics of Swift work. We can see these commands. We can see how the camel case, where we've got the capital letters and the syntax starting to come together. We're already at this stage moving on now, and this one here is saying use a function to create a dance routine. Now we're going to dig into functions in a couple of weeks' time in the different sessions here, but we've got our first kind of hint of a function here, and we can see the syntax we got. It says func in purple. We've named our function here, and then we've got some space to enter our code. So most of the function structure is already written for us. We just have to put the content in to say, what does this function actually do? Now, a function, all it is something nice and simple that lets us group together commands. And we group together commands that we might use several times. So we could just write those commands out each time we wanted to use them. But if we group them together as a function and name that function, we only have to write them up at the top in the header data up at the beginning. We write it once, we give that group of commands a name. So in this case, the name is my dance routine. And then every time we need that particular set of commands, we just type the name of the function. So we can see there, the function actual content comes between some curly brackets there where it says tap to enter code. So that's the header information. Our actual code that we're calling here is just that one line, my dance routine, and then we could do some other things and then my dance routine again, and that would be the code that we're performing. But every time we want that particular set of instructions, we just have one line to write instead of several. So let's put something in. So I just want to, again, we'll do something straightforward and simple. If you have a bit more time with the children, they can explore it and they can do 2 or 3 different versions. So let's just move forward, move backwards, move to the left, and move to the right. So nice and simple command there. And we can run the code just to see that that does work. There we go. It's nice and simple. There's we're doing a move to the left, and let's move to the right. And if he's on the table, you actually see him jump across the table as well. So there we go, and well done. We've created our first dance routine with a function. So while functions can be fairly complex, most of that is there for us. We're just kind of filling in the blanks at this stage. So let's jump on to make your own moves. So here we're going to learn how to control MeBot servers. So we've already said there's 6 in there. And at the moment, we've been using these commands, which have been doing a lot of the work for us. But as we get in a bit further, we can actually get in here now and control each of those servos independently. So again, we've got our first line written for us, and we just have to put the parameters in. So we've got our motor, our servo motor there for moving the left arm, and we've got an angle to put in. So if I can tap in there, I'll just put an angle in. Let's put 50 in, just put a value in. The second line here says move body. Now this is a little bit like that function syntax that we used before, where we were grouping commands together, and we called it a function so we could call on it later on. We've not got the function element here. This is just a way of doing part of that where we group in the commands. So my first line is just one movement, but if I want him to use perhaps both arms together, I have to group those so that they happen simultaneously. That's the only reason they're in that kind of curly bracket there, so they happen at the same time. We'll fill those in a moment. Let's just have a look at this parameter. So I filled in move left arm, angle of 50. Let's just run the code and check that works. So there we go, there's his arm, and it's moved 50. You see it went up there because it was a positive value of 50, so he lifted his arm up. If I change that number and put a minus in front of it, let's try it now, and he should put his arm down. There we go. So we just told the motor to turn the other direction. Bear in mind, if up is positive on his left arm, positive on his right arm is going to be down, purely because of the way the robot is built, and the motor will have been turned around to physically replicate it on the other side. So you might have to, if you're doing multiple arms and different legs and things, you might have to just experiment which way the motors are turning, so get your positives and your negatives right. So I've got his arm turning down, moving down at the moment. Now let's move his body. Maybe let's move his left leg with a value of, we'll put 50 in as well. And then I think we'll just try that. So we've got that in there. So we can see him moving his arm, and then he should move his leg. So we're just building up those parameters. And in that move body, we can put more and more instructions if we want, and keep things happening together. So let's move on. And now we've got our basic kind of movement and control understood there. We can start thinking about, we're trying to make this robot dance. So if we're going to dance, we have to kind of time it and sequence it to music. So we've got a bit more of an information page coming up here. We've got some an action here. We're going to wave his arms, and we can see if we're doing it in beats, music is divided into beats. That's all we're counting all the way through a song. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. It lets us time the music, and it means we can synchronize things. But it also kind of sets a bit of a tempo for how quickly things can happen. So if we want him to move his arms, we've got the same command on these 3 diagrams here. He's just moving his arms, and they're doing exactly the same movement. But in the first one, we're saying the duration for that movement is over 1 beat. Whereas on the last one, it's over 4 beats. So he's doing the same movement, but to try and fit all that in 1 beat, he needs to move fairly quickly. To fit it over 4 beats, his movement is much slower. So we can use that when we're doing our coding. So we can see here, we've got some presets, how things are synced. So if we're staying within the patterns, we've got 30 beats a minute, 60 beats a minute, and 120 beats a minute. So things can happen in kind of cycles with that. And let's have a go. So we're doing 4 beats there over a speed of 80 beats a minute. So again, we've now got MeBot. We've now got some music for him to dance along to. So our goal is to create 2 dance routines for the MeBot using 2 different bits of music later on. So we're introducing another concept here, and we've got an if and an else command already. So we've not done this with Byte going around the maps yet, but we're starting to look at it here. But again, that structure is there. We're just putting the values in to kind of get a little bit of confidence with it. So if the BPM, the beats per minute of the current music that's playing is 60, we want him to do this. So let's put something in there. So let's just move his left arm, and I'll put a value of 50 again. So if the music is 60 beats per minute, we just want him to move his left arm there. Or else, if it's something else, we want him to do something else. And I think I'll go for a more complicated one here. Let's go for Crazy Dance, which has got all those moves built into it for us, nice and easy. I've just got 2 different things, so it's quite easy to tell the difference. So let's try it. I'm going to turn the music on up here. And it gives us two pieces of music. We've got an intro, which is 60 beats a minute, and we've got the bit loop, which is 120 beats a minute. So if I set the intro music and I'm going to play it and then I'll run my code, we'll see it should be recognizing that the music's at 60 beats a minute. So we're just going to move our left arm. Let's try it. Okay, so just turn the music off there. Oh, it's wanting to access my music library because we can use our own music a bit later on as well. But for the moment, so the music was 60 beats a minute and he just moved his left arm. Let's just to prove it, let's go for the faster piece of music, turn the music back on, and he should realize that the music's faster here. So he should go straight into the crazy dance. So let's try it. Okay, and we'll turn the music off again so we can chat through it. So all we've done there, we have an if and an else command. So it's taking the concepts now, it's starting to put a little bit of context to the programming that we're doing, the coding, because it's saying, well, let's listen to what's happening in the environment. In this case, it's the speed of the music, and those two different scenarios are making it code in a slightly different way. So a fairly complicated task there already in the understanding of the coding, but it's set out nice and easily, and we're actually only really playing with the parameters. We're changing those values to experiment with this. So let's move down, let's change the rhythm. And here we're going to use a timing parameter to control the speed. So we kind of saw this in that introduction where it was saying, look, if we're moving these movements over 1 beat, it takes this length of time. If they're over 4 beats, we've got a bit longer, so they will move slower. So let's try that. So again, it gives us the code. We're starting to get a feel for it so we can understand. We've got a section here that says move the right arm by an angle of 30 degrees. We've got a beat. Well, let's put a value in. So let's do it quite quickly. We'll do it over 1 beat. Let's move the left arm then over 1 beat as well. And then we've got all these grouped together. Remember we said we could group actions together so the movements will happen simultaneously. So we're moving our left foot, left arm, left leg, right foot, right arm, and right leg all at the same time. We've got quite a complicated dance move there, and we've just called it move body. Let's do all of that as well over 1 beat, and let's see what happens. If I just press play, okay, we see how fast he's moving there. Let's change those parameters. Let's experiment with it. Let's change that to over 8 beats. We'll change them all to over 8. Let's change that one as well. No, not 5. Let's change it to 8, so they're all the same. So he's doing exactly the same movement now, but it should be much, much slower. So let's play the code. Let's run the code. You see he's moving his arm very, very slowly now because we've got so much longer to do a fairly slow movement, a fairly simple movement. So he's moving his second arm, moving his left arm there. And now he's going to go into the move body and do all of his dancing, but kind of in slow motion. So we're getting much more control over it. So we know how now individual motors, we can set the angles, the individual movement or group movement, and we know how we can control the speed. So we are starting to build up a bigger picture of this kind of dance coming together. So let's go on to intro music. And again, we're starting to get onto more complex coding ideas. We're introducing Boolean conditions here. Now these really actually don't come into the curriculum until Key Stage 3. We kind of touch on it in Key Stage 3, but without really using the kind of phrases for Boolean condition. And really this is just a true or false command. That's all it means. So we want to program something that has a true or false condition. So what we've got here, we've got our coding and we've got a while command. So this says while the music is playing, and it's telling us what our song is, which is the intro. Let me tap on that music tab there. That's the intro one at 60 beats to the minute. And we want him to move to the left, and we want him to move to the right. And then we've got some other code to happen later on. So let's put in something simple. So we've got a move to the left, we've got a move to the right. So they're fairly involved movements. Let's put something fairly simple in here at the moment. So let's just move one of his arms, move his left arm, and we'll move it 50 again, just so that we can see the difference between the two. So while it's on the intro music, it should be doing stepping left and stepping right. And then when I change, if I change the section now from the bit to the bit loop, we should see him change his dance. So we had it a moment ago where we were recognizing whether it was the fast music and he did one dance. If it was something else, he did a fast dance. Okay, so we do that. Now we're doing something actually within the code, so it can change at the same time while it's playing through it. So let's put the music on. Let's put it on intro, and partway through, I'll change to the bit loop, and we should see him change his dance. So put the music back on. Okay, there's his right dance. So let's do one more go. Let's dance to the left. And now I'm going to change it to the bit loop. And we saw it change there. So it was looping round over and over again, doing his move to the left and move to the right while it was the intro music, the slower piece. But when I changed it to the faster loop, it just jumped onto that last bit of code that just moved one arm an angle of 50 degrees. So that's our first little bit of Boolean logic. So while it was playing this, that was true. That's what it was doing. But when we were playing something else, that was our false response. So that's when he did the second bit of code. So we're starting to get much more complicated concepts into it now, but still, we're not actually having to write a lot of code. We're just exploring the parameters. So that takes us on to our last one here. So dance loops. And we're introducing yet another concept here, but again, the coding is kind of put in for us here. So we'll explore all these in a bit more detail when we start going back to Byte and digging into it, and we'll actually start writing these commands. But at this stage, we're just getting familiar with the parameters and the effects that these have. So we want to use a repeating sequence now. We want to use what we call a for loop. And again, these are a part of the curriculum that we need to cover at Key Stage 2. So we've got loops in here, and we've got the syntax written for us already. It says for I in one, ... and then we've got something where we can put our parameters in and edit those details there. So what we've actually got here is just the syntax here saying for I stands for iteration in one. So this is just saying if we're going to loop something several times, this is version 1, 2, how many times do we want it to loop? So if we say we want this pattern of coding now to loop, say 4 times, we just write for I in one, ... 4. So this is just saying whatever I now put in that inside those curly brackets, in exactly the same way we grouped those commands together, this will happen 4 times. So let's do something simple. So we'll have a move forward, then we'll move his left arm 50 again, and then I think we'll leave it there for now. So we'll have that over and over again. So we'll loop that 4 times. So I'm not going to put the music on. Let's play it. So we're moving forward. Now he's moving his arm. Now he's moving forward again. Moving his arm, move forward. And so it's going to loop that round 4 times. So all we've done is just making our code more efficient. So in the same way we use functions to save us having to write all that code out every time we want to do a set of moves, if we have a repeating pattern, and in this case a dance move, we can just loop it over and over again here. So we're gradually building up those concepts and just exploring the parameters. When we go back to the puzzles lessons, the teacher resources here, we explore those in a bit more detail when we go back into the Swift environment with Byte, moving around the maps, and we're solving the problems, and we have to start putting this code together. Now, at the moment, we're exploring the patterns by just making dance moves. Once we get back into Byte in his map, finding his gems, we've got to start working out what are those patterns, what are those loops, and where do they come from? And once we've worked those out in our heads, we then have to work out how to code them. So we've got a nice little step in there in between by just dipping our toe in the water with some of these more complicated concepts. And that takes us to the grand finale. And we can spend as much time as we like now with the children, letting them create a dance. And I've got some coding in here already for us. So I've already put some different loops in here. We've got a while command. We've got a for in command here for our loops. Let me just set the BPM. So let's set it to 60. And we can put our music on. And you'll notice this time, we've still got our intro and our bit loop, but we can also choose our own song. So if you have any other music on your iPad in your music library, you can actually get the MeBot now to dance along to your favorite tracks and do something specific for that movement there. So let's have a quick look, see what we've got here. And we'll pause that there for now. But you get the idea of how we build those things up. And it's really just somewhere for the children to kind of have a bit of fun with it, play with it, and just see what they come up with. Explore those different approaches to coding and working with just getting that familiarity, getting a bit of experience working with those different commands and different key concepts in quite a fun way, really. And that's MeBot.
Amazing. So let me get this right. When you're dancing, it's supposed to be in time to the beat of the music?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's where I've been going wrong all these years. So, if you saw the last episode, this is familiar, isn't it? This is just the same as when we're using the bike character, just obviously a slightly different theme. And if you're lucky enough to have an actual real MeBot, then that thing is going to be dancing and breaking its moves on the desktop, literally on the desktop in front of the children, which I think is just fantastic. It just takes that code off the screen and into the real environment, which is never a bad thing. We're going to see some more of that type of thing in a week's time, I think, when Darren from Sphero is going to join us, and we're going to have a look at Sphero over the course of a couple of episodes. But that was incredible, and also teaching a few concepts of music there and beats per minute and all the rest of it. So absolutely fabulous. Thank you again.
And that's one of the nice things here, just looking at the screen with these different playgrounds, while we're exploring the concepts and linking together kind of the dancing side of it and the music concepts in the MeBot dancers. Just looking at some of the other playgrounds that Apple give us. We've got the spirals one there, which again, we need to be a little bit further into probably learn to code 1, but it's worth spending some time on there because there's a lot of maths concepts in there about the geometry and the different shapes, and we're adjusting the parameters to create different patterns in there. But there's some lovely exercises across these different playgrounds.
Excellent. And of course, more and more developers are supporting modules in Swift Playground. So we've seen the one from MeBot. We're going to hear about Sphero. Just looking at the bottom of the screen there, I can see that also there are modules for Lego, for the Parrot drones, for the Scoogs. So yeah, all kinds of things now. And I think, all of these rich resources, you can sort of plug them in, many of them straight into the Swift Playgrounds environment. So a real good expansion there, and they're all free, aren't they? So
yeah, and it's worth noting with most of these hardware elements as well. So with the MeBot, you don't need the hardware. You've got the software version of it here, and you do with some of them. But if you do have the hardware, all of these come with their own app as well. Yeah. So while I'm using Swift, which is kind of upper key stage 2 really for controlling the MeBot, they've got an app which has a Blockly type environment. And again, that's nice for working with maybe the younger children. So you can use the same resources, physical resources across the school. Sphero is exactly the same. You get a separate app. So introducing some of the ideas around programming the Sphero through their app. But then for the older children who are getting a bit more involved in it, let's have a look at programming the same device, but through Swift. So you've got a nice school resource rather than just thinking this is just for 1 or 2 year groups.
Excellent. That's exactly right. So if you want to know more about Everyone Can Code, then point your iOS device camera at that QR code. It will take you to the Apple webpage, which is the overview of the Everyone Can Code program. Scroll about halfway down that page and you will find a big PDF which, put my teeth in, that includes the mapping out at each different age group, how many hours of activity you've got. And, for key stage 2, we're looking at around about 45 hours worth of activities there, which of course you can embed into your main curriculum, or, perhaps use it as an extra resource in an after school code club or something like that. So do take a look at that. The wider Apple resources for schools, you can learn all about those on the online Apple Teacher program. That's free professional learning. You just log in with your Apple ID, your iTunes account, your Apple Music account, and any other Apple account, and get yourself into the Apple Teacher program. You register on the sign up page, which is the lower QR code on the page that we're looking at now. Work through those modules, you'll get that certificate, the Apple Teacher certification. Print that out, pop it on your classroom wall, staff room wall, and that just lets everybody know that you've taken the time to take a look at those resources. If, as a school, you're looking to take your computing curriculum to the next level, and we have an MCC MyLearn computing toolkit for you. That includes a half-class set of iPads and one for teacher, so 16 iPads. 15 Spheros, that's the cricket ball size round robot you can see on the screen there. They're great fun. We're going to take a look at those next week. Also includes 5 of their rover robots. That's the tracked vehicle you see on the top half of the screen. You can take those outside, put them in sandpits. They're great fun. And that's the whole thing about this bundle. It's all good fun. All works beautifully with iPad and includes lesson content for you. We're seeing all the Swift Playgrounds content with Everyone Can Code, but Sphero also have a whole load of content within their app that will help you deliver a great experience to your pupils when teaching computing. That's it from us for today. That's available, should have said, on a MyLearn subscription for £289 per month. And do get in touch with us at MCC if you'd like to know more. We can bring some of that kit round to your school, tell you all about it. Next time, what are we doing, David?
Next time, we're going to dig back into some of those functions, those concepts about how the coding is put together to make it a bit more efficient. We'll go back to Byte and his environment and look at how we can solve some of those more logical problems using some of the kind of the more efficient code.
Efficiency and logical code. That sounds good. Right, excellent. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, we are bang on time, I think. Yes, we are. And we'll see you next week for that session with David and myself. Thank you. Bye-bye.